You clicked on the video, I'm guessing because you have a desire to start studying your Bible, but you're not really sure how to incorporate it into your already overwhelming and busy schedule. Well, I have a surefire strategy to help you not only start reading, but keep on studying that Bible and going deeper and deeper into your relationship with God. That's what's coming up next at theatwhatcostblog.com. Well, hello friend, I'm Mary Beth from theatwhatcostblog.com. This is my dog Bella, and so you are probably going to hear her snoring. She's about 97 years old, mostly blind, and just cannot stand to be more than 3 feet apart from me most of the day. So here she is. Please excuse the dog snores. But this is just kind of how things work at this channel. We are real life. I'm a working mom. I have a husband and 3 very active boys. I facilitate a Bible study at our church, and I have, occasionally had Bible studies here in my home, which meant I needed to not only read my Bible, I needed to be able to share that with others and explain it. The most common complaint that I get from women is that they just don't have time to study their Bible. We're so busy. We live in a society that is an on-demand society. We can have whatever it is that we want pretty much at our fingertips all of the time, which means we're also expected to produce things all of the time, which means our schedules just fill up and up and up. And I often have thought, even myself, that if I had a few more hours in the day, there would be no reason that I could not study my Bible. The problem is, we don't ever get those extra hours. We all have the same amount of time. So the first step in our strategy is to spend some time evaluating your day. Now, it's important that you're open and honest with yourself about this time. I know for me, I can be at the end of a very busy day and have no idea what I actually did. Do you ever feel that way? I'm sure I'm not the only one. And be a little bit prepared. I know for me, this kind of hurt. I felt like I was a pretty productive person. I always had things going on. But when I took the time to actually be honest with myself and keep like a legit record of my day, not just what I think I did in a day, but to actually take the time to keep a running log of what I did during that day. I had other times during the day that I was filling with some activity. If I was taking a break, or maybe I was eating lunch at work, I would hop on my phone, scroll through a few things, and waste a good 30 minutes of my day that I never even realized I had. And I can't stress to you enough, this is a time to be self-aware. You are already motivated for a change. That's why you're here. That's why you're even on the internet looking for Bible study tips, because you know that you want to do life differently. But, and this is it's just hard to accept, we have to change some of the habits that we're in if we want to fill them with new habits. If you feel like you're not getting a real good picture, do this for a couple of days. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be pretty or fancy or whatever. It can just be a list of the things that you've done that you're going to be able to look back at and understand what it was that you did. And I know it's hard. We don't always want to face the reality of how we're actually spending our time. Do you ever get ready to file your taxes and you see the income and you think to yourself, where did all of that money go? The same can be true about our time, but at least in my experience, that was more motivating than anything. I knew when I saw those pockets of time, it was easier than ever for me to start to scale back the areas that I needed to and be motivated to do that, which is what brings me to our next point. Now that we have the data, it's time to do some analysis. We want to see where we can trim back some of that time to start incorporating time to read our Bibles. Now, when we think about these things, there are definitely some things on the list that are non-negotiable. I have to cook dinner for my family. I have my set work hours. I don't have as much manipulation with those times. we want to look at the areas that we do have a lot more control over. There's a short book you may be familiar with called The Tyranny of the Urgent. And the basic premise is that everything claims to be important. And my favorite quote from it is that the work will expand to fill the time. So in other words, this idea that we would find some extra time to do things is somewhat of an illusion. The time is there. We're going to fill it with something, and if everything claims to be important, it can be difficult for us to prioritize which tasks we need to do right now and which we can lay down for another time, which means we are the gatekeepers of what takes priority. And although some of those tasks may feel like non-negotiable, we may have some flexibility there that we can scale back how long it takes us to do things or what those non-negotiables really entail. So maybe in anticipation of this new season and having a little bit different habits, can you chill please? Here we see, 97, she's 97 years old, friends. You good? Okay. We really do love her. She is the best dog. I just like to give her a hard time. There's actually a story behind her, and someday I will probably tell it, but not today. We're talking about time. See? Distractions. I get distracted. This is exactly what happens. I'm trying to study my Bible. The dog is coughing, and here we are. I've just wasted like 2 minutes of this video. Is there something that I can do ahead of time to set myself up for an easier time in those non-negotiable tasks? So can I make a little dinner ahead of time? I know we want to make good choices 100% of the time, but again, everything claims to be important. So maybe we bite the bullet and buy a couple of Stouffer's lasagnas so that we just have something to throw in the oven to get dinner on the table, knowing that in the time to come, we are going to have more time to be able to devote to these things as we scale back on some of the things that seem a little less important. This is really where minimalism has made the biggest impact in our family. We don't have all of the stuff taking up our time because I literally don't have all of that stuff. We don't have the wardrobes we used to have. I don't have the same amount of dishes to dirty up that I used to have. So finding some of those areas that you can scale back so that you can add a little more time in, or I guess not add, but divert a little more time to some of these things that you know are going to be bringing life. Decide which things are that immediate importance that have to be taken care of, and maybe which items or tasks are things that you can set aside for a short season while we build this new habit, which brings us to our next point. Set yourself up for success. True lasting changes happen in small increments over time. We begin to trust ourselves to keep the routine. We see the value in it. We understand that the whole world is not going to fall apart if we divert our attention somewhere else for just a moment. And we begin to see that change really take hold. Now, if you watched last week's video, you know that I had a very difficult time mustering up the motivation and understanding just how important Bible study was. But as I continued to make small changes over time, I grew to understand the value and the impact that it could have in my life. I'll be honest, when I first started looking for tips on how to study my Bible, and I came to YouTube or other places, a lot of it was,
just read it, you'll love it, you'll see how great it is, and you just won't be able to stop yourself from doing it.
And unfortunately for me, that was not the case. I didn't get it. I couldn't understand the way that things like Leviticus applied to my life. I didn't understand the way that Numbers pointed to the beauty and the steadfastness of God in fulfilling his prophecies. I didn't get it, but I kept going. 7 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would get up at 4:30 in the morning and study my Bible for a good solid hour and a half. But that's my reality. And it happened not because I just got this like hankering to study my Bible early in the morning, but because I wanted to increase the value that I saw in my life. And as I made changes and trimmed back some of those other activities, it became easier and easier for me to adjust my patterns, my habits, and see how I really could incorporate all of that study in. So little changes over time is really our best bet. My next tip for setting yourself up for success is to take it a little easy on yourself. You may feel really highly motivated, especially in these times, depending on when you're watching this video. Like, there's a lot of talk about end times. You may want to dig into Revelation. If you've never read the Bible, it may be a challenge. Maybe don't start with Revelation. Maybe start with John, 1 Peter, Mark. There are a lot of very meaningful but not as challenging passages that we can start with in the beginning. And as you work your way up into your study habits, you start to gain confidence in your ability to study. Tackling the more challenging aspects of the Bible will become easier and easier and easier for you. We also want to be cognizant of our natural tendencies. Now, when it comes to Bible study, I can be a little bit of a squirrel. I do not read the Bible on my phone. For some people, that may work really great, and I applaud those who know that they're able to do that. But for me, I'm not one of those people. If I have that Bible app open on my phone, it is so easy for me to have a thought pop into my head that, oh, I needed to find that on Amazon, or I wonder if tickets are available for that. And all of the sudden, I can find myself totally out of my Bible app, totally scrolling the deal of the day. So for me, it works a lot easier if I have Bible in hand. I need to have my phone a little bit further away from me so that I am not tempted to just pick it up and again, indulge all of those things that claim to be the most important thing. And this is actually an important part of our journey here, to be honest with ourselves about our natural tendencies. You know, the enemy wants nothing more than to make the environment so distracting that we stop what we're doing, we shift our attention away from the scripture, and ultimately we end up having a study time that gives us a little nugget here or there and ultimately leaves us more confused, more overwhelmed, and less motivated to study. The most important tip that I can give you in starting this journey and keeping it successful is to pray. Pray for God to reveal to you the time that you do have. Pray that He increases your endurance and your resolve to study His Word. Pray that God would work in ways to free up time in your life so that you can draw closer and closer to Him. We want to ask for discernment and ultimately peace with the changes that we may have to make. Sometimes change is unpleasant. The outcome is so much greater than staying in that place where we know that we need a change, but we have no idea how to do it. If you would like to see how minimalism impacted my faith, click the video right here. And if you'd like to see some of my favorite Bible study resources, click the video here. If you have not yet subscribed, you can click the picture right here to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on anything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.